Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you might be joining us from. We are excited to have you for another pre-arrival webinar for our new incoming students. Today, we will be focusing on finances and student accounts. My name is Grace Fuller. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as the Interim Assistant Director of International Experience and Engagement over at the International Services and Engagement Office, also referred to as ISEO. And I'm joined by some wonderful colleagues who I'll invite to introduce themselves. So, Ben, over to you.
Hi, my name is Ben Baniagua. I work at Student Financial Solutions as a student account advisor, and I basically assist with any student account services and billing services at SFS. And I'm also joined by my coworker, Alyssa, if she wants to introduce herself as well.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Alyssa Piniranda. I am the same position as Ben, a student account advisor, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have today during our seminar.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sherry Gallagher from Flywire. UC San Diego partners with us to process their international payments. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thanks for being here. Okay, so here's a quick snapshot of how we'll spend our time together today. So first, we'll do a welcome and introduction of the International Services and Engagement Office, in case this is the first pre-arrival webinar you might be joining us for. Then I'll hand it over to my colleagues in Student Financial Solutions to talk about how to pay, third-party payers, international payment options, etc. We'll also include some reminders about how to avoid scams. And as always, we'll end our time together with an open question and answer. So please know that we always dedicate some time for you to ask your good questions. And with that, some housekeeping. So you are in listen-only mode, which means you can hear us, but unfortunately, we can't hear you. So the main way that we'll interact together today will be through that Q&A feature on your Zoom menu bar. If for any reason we aren't able to get to your question today, you can always contact our office at icontact.ucsd.edu, and our partners at Student Financial Solutions will also be sharing the contact information for their office as well. And finally, we are recording. So you'll be able to view this webinar recording as well as all other pre-arrival webinar recordings at inewstudentwebinars.ucsd.edu. And it should be under the drawer Fall 2025 Pre-Arrival Webinars. Okay, so if you haven't used the Q&A feature before, here's a little screenshot of what that might look like. As I mentioned, we do save time at the end for open question and answer. But if you're anything like me, sometimes you just have that burning question and you want to go ahead and submit it so you don't forget. So if that's you, feel free to go ahead and answer it. We have some folks who might be monitoring the Q&A, but please know we might wait to spend time on questions at the end of today's session. Okay, and so we like to begin each one of our pre-arrival webinars with such a warm welcome. We are so excited to meet you. We're so excited to already begin supporting and interacting with our new international student cohort here at UC San Diego. You make our campus better and brighter, and so we're excited to start to interact with you with issuing your I-20 or your DS 2019s, as well as providing these pre-arrival webinars, and then excited to meet you either this summer or in this fall. So some reminders in terms of first steps. If you are a graduate student, it is important that you log into your applicant portal and accept your offer of admission, as well as fill out the statement of legal residence form if it is listed. If it's not listed, no worries. This is not required for all programs. There's no action for you to take. But if it is listed, that is a required document that you'll need to fill out before you can proceed with any next steps. Do note that most students are provisionally admitted. So if you have any questions, make sure that you're checking your pending admissions section so that you can go ahead and finalize your admission. And you can contact gradadmissions@ucsd.edu if you have any questions regarding your pending admission documents. So this will be really important for both grad and undergrad to accept your offer of admission, because that will prompt you to then go ahead and set up your required accounts, and you won't be able to do that until you accept your offer of admission. For undergraduate students, your applicant portal will be called beatriton.ucsd.edu/account. And then from there, you'll complete your enrollment checklist, which will also be accepting your offer of admission and completing your California residency for tuition purposes questionnaire. Then 2 to 3 days later, you will receive an email asking you to create your Triton Link Active Directory and your Duo accounts. This will provide you with your UC San Diego PID and email. So these are really important because this is how you will access almost all UC San Diego systems and software. So give it a little bit of time, but if you haven't accepted your offer of admission to kind of kick off this process, it's important that you do so because that's also how you'll access iServices and ask for your I-20 or DS 2019 and things like that. Okay, so from there, once you've accepted your offer of admission and completed your applicant portal, I also want to highlight inewdegreestudent.ucsd.edu. So this is a website that we have built out to answer and kind of take you step by step through the process of applying for your form I-20 or DS 2019, and then using that document to then apply for your F1 or your J1 student visa. So this, again, it breaks down the process because it can be a big process, really section by section, step by step to give you the information when you need it. So inewdegreestudent.ucsd.edu, you'll click on new bachelor's, master's, and PhD students, and that will take you to the relevant section. And with that, I will hand it over to my colleagues from Student Financial Solutions.
Hi there. So I'm Ben, and thank you so much, Grace, for the introduction. So I'll go ahead and present for Student Financial Solutions, and you could go to the next slide. So just an overview about what our services are and what our office actually does. The main services that we provide for students are student account services. Basically, it's student billing services. So if you ever had a question about charges on your account, any transactions that were on there, then we would be frontline support for that. We also assist with university billing services. So if you have any third-party sponsors that are going to be taking care of your bill, we would assist with invoicing those sponsors, as well as collaborating with them and making sure that that they pay off your account in a timely fashion. We also do cashiering services through our central cashier's office, and this department is responsible for processing cash and check payments made to the university. So we accept in-person payments as well as mailed payments, and the cashiering team is responsible for processing all of those. We also have a loans administration team. This team basically reaches out to students who have campus-based loans and assists them with the repayment process, helping them to avoid going into default status and just assisting them with any sort of repayment questions they might have. And our campus cards division prints all of the student ID cards, staff ID cards, and affiliate ID cards. They have a separate office, which is kind of joined with SFS, and assist with any ID card questions and support. All right, and the first topic that we're going to go into in regards to account services would be authorizing payers. So if you are a student and you have somebody that you'd like to be able to access your account or ask questions regarding it, you're going to want to authorize them in your Triton Pay. And Triton Pay is basically our main billing portal that we give all students access to as soon as you get a UCSD account. It's your main billing hub. And so if you want to have somebody be able to view your Triton Pay, make payments on behalf of your Triton Pay, you're going to want to go into your Triton Pay and authorize them. And by authorizing a payer, you're going to allow them to receive monthly e-bill reminders. Basically, they'll just get the billing statement emails that you would get as well. They'd be able to review all of your account activity, be able to use all of the same payment methods that you'd be able to use, and then they'd also be able to update contact information on their behalf as well. The reason why authorizing payers is so important is because a lot of times we get questions from parents of students or family members of students who want to know what exactly is going on the student's bill, and we're not allowed to release any information to parents or any any other person that's not the student because of FERPA. So if you have anybody that you definitely know that you want them to have access to your bill, then we would strongly recommend authorizing them through Trident Pay. All right, and then going on to third-party payments, your first sort of action item, if you do have a third-party sponsor that's going to be covering your bill, is to contact that email on the slide, undergrad@thirdparty@ucsd.edu, at least 6 to 8 weeks prior to your arrival, so you can set up any third-party agreements. The reason why is because it just does take some time for the contracts to get sorted out, for the invoices to get sent, for all of the third-party billing processes to happen, that we like to have that 6 to 8 week buffer time so that we can get everything that we need to sort it out for you, so that when you come to school, you're just focusing on your academics and you don't have to worry about these sort of third-party processes that can take quite a while to complete. Some documents that you're going to want to ensure are submitted properly is your financial guarantee. So the financial guarantee is just a statement from your sponsor that they're going to cover your balance. All third-party sponsors are required to provide authorization documentation in order to complete an agreement setup. And then after you submit your financial guarantee, we'll send out something called a billing authorization via DocuSign. DocuSign is just a secure signature application where you'll get a form called a billing authorization and you would just sign it through there. And then if we go to the next slide, that's where we'll have the third-party infographic, which you could also access by clicking that link after this presentation. And on this infographic, it's just going to be a timeline of what you're going to want to do if you have any third-party sponsors that are going to be covering your bill. So step one is submit the financial guarantee and then complete the billing authorization that we sent to you. After that, if applicable, you can waive your health insurance. So if you have qualifying health insurance that could replace the university's health insurance, which you can read more about on the student health website, you'd want to go ahead and waive that. You'd also want to check your account and make sure that all of your miscellaneous fees are being covered. So third-party sponsors typically cover only tuition and registration and some select bookstore items. But if you go out and you charge like a student health service charge, a copay, or if your sponsor does not cover bookstore items and you went out and charged something from the bookstore to your account, you're going to want to make sure that you're just checking your account to see if any of these miscellaneous fees are being posted, and you would want to pay for them. Also, you're going to want to check your account holds. Basically anything that would prevent you from getting into WebReg. If you do check your account and you do have a hold from a payment that's not posted, then you could just contact their office. We'd be able to tell you why the hold is on your account, and what you'd be able to do to resolve that. You always want to review your account balance as often as you can. We recommend checking it at least once a month. Honestly, I probably recommend twice a month, just because stuff can post after billing statements are released, and you just want to make sure that you're keeping up to date with the balance on your Trident Pay and that you're sort of taking care of everything as it comes in. And just to go into our primary payment options. So the one that we recommend the most, if it's an option to you, is eCheck. When you go onto your Trident Pay, this is going to be the payment method that's under the bank account option. So you would go to the make a payment section, and then it would ask you if you want to make a payment through bank account. This is also known as eCheck to us. The reason why we recommend it is because it's very quick. It posts to the account immediately as soon as you make the payment, and it only charges you a 50-cent service fee per payment. The catch to that is that a US bank account is required. So if you don't have a US bank account, we'd strongly recommend setting one up just so that you could pay online through eCheck. And if you already have a US bank account, then definitely that's going to be the most recommended payment option that we offer. Additionally, we do offer credit card. If you only have access to credit card, we offer that as well. But it is a 2.75% service charge per payment. And when you are making payments that end up being in the thousands of dollars range, then that 2.75% service charge can add up. So that's why we recommend e-check, because the service fee is usually way less. Credit card payments will also post to the account immediately, just like e-check though. We also offer various wire service transfers. So this would be if you would go onto your Trident Pay to make a payment, there would be a section called international payment. And these are services such as TransferMate, which is the one that we usually refer our students to use most. We have Convera and Flywire as well. And what you'd want to do if you were planning to use any of these is to just check through all of them and see which one would give you the least amount of service fee. That's the reason why we offer different payment vendors, also due to bank compatibility as well. So some of these payment vendors aren't compatible with some banks and some are. And then depending on the currency exchange rate, some of these would charge more than the others. So just definitely review your options if you're going to use a wire service transfer. The service fee can vary, and we also do not accept direct wire transfers. So if you were to go to your bank and give the UCSD SWIFT code and you were to just directly wire money to the UCSD payment address, that's not something that we accept. We only accept online payments through the wire, through Trident Pay and through the wire service options that are listed on Trident Pay, but we don't actually service any direct wires. And we also offer 529 plans, or 529 plan payment options. So if you have a bank that is compatible, then you can go on your Trident Pay and do it electronically. But this is only for a select number of 529 plans. If your 529 plan is not compatible with the university, at least through Trident Pay, then what you'd want to do is just send your invoice to your 529 agency, and then they would send the payment via check over to UCSD. And then we have a page on international payment options as well. It was linked on the last one. So if you have any questions about your options for international payments, you could just go ahead and go over to that link and read it. Additionally, if you just Google SFS UCSD, you can just click on the international payment option link and it'll be there as well. And then on top of that, additional payment options that we offer. In person, we take cash, money orders, personal check, cashier's checks, and traveler's checks. And by mail, we also take money orders, personal checks, cashier's checks, and traveler's checks. All of these payments must be made in US dollars. And if you're writing out a check, it should be made out to UC Regents and include the student PID. We just recommend including as much information on the check as possible. If you think it should be on there, just go ahead and include it. It's way better to have more information on a check than not enough to be able to post it to the student account. And then scholarships. So if you have a third-party private scholarship that you're going to be mailing to UCSD, you also want to make it payable to UC Regents. You're going to want to make sure that it has your name on there as well as your PID. That's going to be the number that starts with an A. They can be delivered in person to Student Financial Solutions, to our Trident Pay office, or they can be mailed to the address below. You're also going to want to make sure that you're just submitting them as early as possible. The reason why is because scholarships can take some time to post to the account. The way that we process them is that you would send the scholarship to our office. We would process it and just upload it to our system, and then we would send it over to the Financial Aid and Scholarships office. And then once it's sent out to the Financial Aid and Scholarships office, it's really up to them to post it onto your account. So because it's going through multiple departments, we just recommend sending scholarships as soon as possible. That way you won't have to wait a long amount of time for them to actually post onto your account and take care of the bills that they need to. And then direct deposit. So direct deposit is it's a system in which we send out excess overpayments on the account, or refunds too. So if you have a refund on your account or an overpayment, we would recommend strongly enrolling in direct deposit. We'd actually recommend that to all students, not even if you are expecting a refund, but if you're just a student, we strongly recommend enrolling in direct deposit because you never know if you'll have an overpayment on your account. What direct deposit is just linking your bank account so that we would be able to push refunds directly to the bank account instead of sending it as a physical check. The reason why we recommend this is because it's a lot more secure. Sometimes checks can get lost in the mail, and then the cancellation and reissuing process for that can take more time. So it's definitely the fastest way to get your refund, as well as the most secure, because it's always going to be sent out to that bank account that you list for direct deposit. We'll never charge the account that you list for direct deposit. It's only for refunds. So that's definitely something that I'd recommend for all students, even if you're not expecting a refund, because it's just better that if you were to receive one, it would just get sent straight out to your bank account and you wouldn't have to deal with the physical check. And then how to avoid housing and tuition scams. So there are quite a lot of scams, or basically people can impersonate the university, and there's just been incidents of this happening. So always use official payment methods. Always pay through Try and Pay. Never pay through any sort of third-party link that's not coming from UCSD directly. Always protect your login credentials. So your student account, your password, you shouldn't really be giving that out to anybody. Even your PID, you should really be careful about who you give your PID to. Just make sure you're only giving your account information to offices that are UCSD affiliated and official, never to anybody that's third party. And beware of WeHousing. So some students use this third-party company called WeHousing to find housing around campus. They also use it to pay deposits and pay rent. They often receive eviction notices because WeHousing never sends payments to the owners. And so the way to avoid becoming a victim of WeHousing, as well as any other company that has the intent to scam, is if you receive a suspicious call, to hang up, contact UCSD PD by calling that number right there, and then notifying ISPO so that they can become aware of that fraudulent company and just put you on the right track so that you know what to look out for, and what the actual UCSD official methods for payments are. And that concludes our Student Financial Solutions presentation. Below our office hours and our phone line. If you have any questions regarding your student accounts or anything from this presentation, feel free to give us a call or visit us in person. We're located in the Student Services Center on the first floor. And then that's also our Instagram. Feel free to follow that as well, just to stay up to date with any updates that we'll push out. But yeah, thanks so much for having us. And then I'll go ahead and pass it off to Sherry.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everyone. So Flywire is partnering with UC San Diego so you can send your international payments directly to them. We started about 14 years ago by an international student who had difficulty sending their funds overseas. And now here we are today working with many schools across the US and the globe. So that way you can send your payment easily, securely in our payment portal. Next slide. And there are several different reasons for why you want to send those payments securely and through one of the approved vendors that UC San Diego is using. We offer 240 different countries and currencies. Countries and territories, and 140 different currencies that you could potentially send your funds from. We also track that payment for transparency to make sure that those funds, from the time that they leave you, that they do arrive at UC San Diego. The school has a dashboard where they can track those payments, and you as a payer can also track those funds through our Flywire platform as well. We do have support 24/7, and on our support team, we do speak about 30 different languages. So if you do need to reach out to us, go ahead and do that either via email. We have a chat bot within the system, or we do have phones that you can also call as well if that's easier for you. And then again, you can benefit from how fast that's going to process because we do have a lot of local banking. We can easily transfer those funds into US dollars and get them over to the school. Next slide. And then part of this is that we don't have any intermediary bank fees. We do offer competitive rates. And one of the things that sets Flywire aside from some of the other companies is we do offer what's called a best price guarantee. If you're able to get a better price within the first 2 hours of booking with Flywire, you can provide us with that documentation to our support team, and they will adjust the cost that was originally quoted to you, and then you will send your funds through the system. So that's really important that you take a look at that best price guarantee piece. We will also send you email notifications. You can check the information online at flywire.com. And we also will send you text messages if you sign up to receive those types of communications as well, just so you can easily track those funds as it's processing. Next slide. And then you can find UC San Diego either from our flywire.com, or as stated before by Ben, you'd want to go to the International Payment Options site. And there on the lower right-hand corner, you can just click Flywire and it'll take you right to the next slide where you'll see kind of your starting point. So here's what the first page is going to look like when you come into Flywire to make your payment. So on the left there, you're going to type in what country are you sending the funds from? And on the right-hand side, you're going to type in how much money do you need to send to UC San Diego in US dollars? And then once you go to the next slide, here you're going to see all of the options that we have available from your home country. This will differ depending on where you're sending your funds from, but typically you're going to see a scroll to the very top of this. You're going to be able to see the least expensive way typically to send the funds is via bank transfer, but we're also going to show you that we can offer payments from UnionPay, Alipay. You can pay using your WeChat, debit, credit card, and sometimes people have funds in other currencies. So if you do, you would scroll to the very bottom of this, typically if you're in real time, and you would be able to see other options that you can send funds in if that's more convenient for you. Next slide. Here, this is going to be completed by who is actually sending the funds. Whose account is this coming from? Whose credit card are you using? So if that's parent, if that's grandparent or cousin, that's the person who would be putting in the payer information, the person who's actually going to be sending those funds to UC San Diego. Next slide. And then this one is really for the student information. So there could be a couple of different pieces of information that the school's asking for, but always asking for your student ID will be very important, your name, your email, and there could be other questions as well as far as what is your program, what year are you, just so that way we can collect that information to pass it off to the school. Once you've completed this, we'll move to the next slide. You'll have an opportunity to review all the information that you just put in. If there's anything that you need to adjust, you can use the back button to go back to make adjustments. If everything is good, then you would just simply click enter, and then we're going to give you some additional information on how to send those funds. Next slide. Here, if you're sending a bank transfer, you're going to get the banking instructions on how do I need to send those funds. So either you're going to go online to a site that you're going to be able to use with your bank to be able to put in this information so that way the funds can be sent directly to Flywire, or you're going to put in your credit card information, which I believe is the next slide. Yes, so that'll pop up immediately. You'll put in your debit credit card information, and then you'll click that you want to make a payment. And then from there, that'll start processing. One more slide. sorry, let me just pause here for a second. If you are sending the funds via bank transfer, then you will print out those banking instructions. And if you physically need to go to a bank, depending on your location, you'll need to show them those banking instructions. Otherwise, you'll just use that information to enter it online. And this here is just showing you that you can track that information. You'll be able to have a receipt number and be able to see kind of as those funds are moving along. And again, we'll send you emails and text message. And next slide. We do have our help website. So if at any point you have any questions as you're going through the process, feel free to use the chat bot to ask a question on the fly, or you can email us to the support@flywire.com. Or if you come into flywire.com/help, we have several bits of information here if you kind of want to watch a video to walk through the process, or if you had any specific questions about the country that you're paying from. There are some countries where we do ask you to upload documentation. Typically, that is mostly China and India. And those are documentations that we then need to provide to your local government to show that you're sending the funds for educational purposes. So that may give you a couple more steps within the product, but then it allows us to complete that on the side for you as we're sending those funds directly to UC San Diego. And I believe that there's just one more slide. Yeah. I think we're moving on. Thank you all so much.
All right, thank you, thank you. So to close, I'm just going to go over a few opportunities for you to already start to get engaged with our UC San Diego community here. If you do have any questions about the content we covered in today's session, please go ahead and utilize that Q&A feature, and then we'll move into our Q&A session shortly. Okay, a few things that I like to highlight. One is you should already be getting our iNew Students newsletter. So this is going to be sent to your UC San Diego email. So again, I'm accepting your offer of admission, setting that up will be really important. And then you're already getting mail. You're already getting email. So this newsletter is really meant to remind you of important deadlines. And so it will say, hey, iServices is open. You can start requesting your Form I-20 or DS 2019. Or, hey, we have this pre-arrival webinar coming up on this topic. You should join us. Things like that. So I'd just like to alert students because sometimes they're surprised that they're already getting email through their UCSD email. And if you haven't, please go ahead and email iprograms.ucsd.edu if for some reason you aren't getting this newsletter yet. But yes, go ahead and make sure to check your UC San Diego email. Okay, there are some guides that are really helpful in your transition to life at UC San Diego. So first is our welcome guide. So our welcome guide, we know that this information is a lot. There's a lot included here. So the welcome guide is really meant to break it up into a little bit easier to process, digestible information. So it's a part of a guide, and it kind of gives you checklists for what to do before you start classes, what to do as you prepare for arrival, and then what to do upon arrival. So I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. And then the other guide that I like to highlight is our surf check guide. So our surf check guide is slightly different in the sense that it was created for students by students based on the common questions international students had as they were transitioning to life in the US and life specifically at UC San Diego. So it's going to cover topics such as how to arrange transportation from the airport to campus, how to set up a phone account, how to set up a US bank account, and more. So I highly recommend perusing our surf check guide to cover that information. I'll also note that on May 6th, we have a webinar called Surf Check Live that goes over a lot of these topics because we know that there's a lot of interest in these. So you can join us. We'll have current UC San Diego international students join us for that session and talk about how they navigated setting up a US bank account, setting up a phone account, arranging transportation, all that good stuff. Okay, so for our undergraduate students, I want to highlight GAP. That is our Global Ambassador Program. That is a peer mentorship program that occurs over the summer. So you will get matched with a current UC San Diego undergraduate student, and to help you really transition to life here. So you can ask all sorts of questions related to what life is like at UC San Diego, and it's meant for you to already start to build your community without even physically being present. And then we'll host some different social opportunities in the fall for you to meet each other in person. I'll talk about Grad Pals in a moment, but before that, some of our other signature programs. If you want to learn more about these, you can go to iprograms.ucsd.edu, but we have a few monthly programs. So for example, Global Coffee Hour happens once a month, Game Night is once a month, Crafting is once a month. So these are just different opportunities for you to connect with the international community here at UC San Diego. Other programs such as English in Action allow you to practice your English conversational skills. Triton Trekkers is our collaboration with Outback Adventures for you to explore the beautiful backyard of San Diego. So I think up on our iEvents calendar right now, we have like a kayaking trip and a hiking trip and a snorkeling trip coming up this quarter. ISAC is our International Student Advisory Council. So that's a leadership opportunity for international students to advocate for the student experience here at UC San Diego. And like I said, so while iPrograms is like kind of an overview of some of our reoccurring signature programs, iEvents is our calendar that includes all of our live events. So these are happening, and the calendar is being continuously populated by not only our office, but also other offices on campus, student organizations, etc. So this is really dedicated to any events that have an international audience or have a global engagement opportunity. I know some students will bookmark ievents.ucsd.edu, so whenever they're wondering like, what's going on this weekend? What can I do? They might peruse iEvents to see. And then finally, if you would like a snapshot of into what student life at UC San Diego looks like, I would highly recommend following us on Instagram. So our handle is at istudents.ucsd, and this is really focusing on the student experience at UC San Diego through the lens of an international student. So this is a great opportunity. It's a wonderful way to kind of start to get a sense of what your life might look like. And I think we're also going to be doing an Instagram giveaway soon. So if you follow us, you have a chance to win. Okay, so then here is Grad Pals. So Grad Pals is our peer mentorship program for graduate students. So we match incoming international graduate students with current international graduate students at UC San Diego. If you haven't heard, I know that we are still recruiting mentors to make that match. So in advance, thank you for your patience as we are recruiting mentors, and then we'll be making those matches shortly. But if you do have any questions about Grad Pals or about GAP, you can always email iprograms@ucsd.edu. Okay, so some important deadlines and reminders. You can begin requesting your Form I-20 or DS 2019 via iServices. You can also start to apply for on-campus housing. So I will say we did have housing, dining, and hospitality join us. So we had a graduate student housing webinar as well as an undergraduate student housing webinar. Those recordings are both available on inewstudentwebinars.ucsd.edu. So I'd highly recommend if you missed those webinars, go ahead and take a watch them because there's a lot of good information. So when you first open the fall 2025 drawer, the first thing you'll see is upcoming webinars that you can register for. And then if you scroll down a little bit further, you'll see previous webinars and you can access the recording as well as the presentation slide. So please go ahead, view that information. It also includes the specific contact information if you have follow-up questions. And I know a few of you did. So please go ahead and reach out to our colleagues in housing, dining, and hospitality because they will have the best answers for you when it comes to on-campus housing. July is the deadline to submit health and immunization requirements, as well as insurance requirements. So again, we also had a student health insurance and immunization requirements for our graduate students, as well as our undergraduate students. You can find those webinar recordings and PowerPoint slides on iNewStudent webinars as well. And then finally in September, it's an exciting month. Lots of things happen. So tuition is due. Thank you for Student Financial Solutions for partnering and helping pay that. It's move-in, it's check-in, it's new international student orientation. So if you'd like a sneak peek of what that might look like, you can head to iorientation.ucsd.edu. So coming up, so next week we'll have two pre-arrival webinars, one focusing on student life and getting involved as an undergraduate international student. On April 24th, we'll talk about campus safety and scams. On May 6th, that's our Surf Check Live pre-arrival webinar, so getting set up in the US. And then on May 8th, we'll talk about the CVIS transfer process. So if you are already in the US at an institution, let's say on an F1 or J1 visa, and you would like to transfer your CVIS record to UC San Diego, please join us on May 8th because we'll go into great detail about what that process entails, traveling, just all the different details related to that. So that will be great webinar to join us for. So again, if you go to inewstudentwebinars.ucsd.edu, you click on Fall 2025 pre-arrival webinars, then you go ahead and the first thing you'll see is the opportunity to register for upcoming webinars. And then if you scroll down, you'll see previous webinar recordings and presentation slides. Finally, we have a survey. So we host all of these webinars based on feedback from you all. So when it comes to, hey, I still have questions about this, or I'd love to learn more about that, we create webinars based on those topics. So please go ahead. We'll do our best to incorporate information for this round of pre-arrival webinars, but we also really look closely at these survey results, specifically as we build out our orientation offerings in the fall in September. So if you do have questions, or if you really liked something, please go ahead and share that in the survey. And I think there's also a gift card giveaway if you fill out the survey. Okay, that concludes the content for today's presentation. I do know that there are some questions in the chat specifically about requesting your Form I-20 and DS 2019, as well as then the financial documents required and correlated with that process. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to share some information about that to get us started. So, excuse me. Okay. Yes. Okay, wonderful. So you should see on my screen I-20 or DS 2019 funding requirements for 2025-2026. So this is a link that I would highly recommend everyone open and save because the most common reason that your I-20 application or DS 2019 application is set to incomplete and it takes our office longer to process is because the funding requirements are incorrect and we need more information or financial documents from you. So you can go see and hear for newly admitted students how much you need to show, what are acceptable sources of funding documents. So it talks about personal funds, checking and savings account, talks about private sponsors, term deposits, stock holdings, loans, funding support letters, income salary statements, life insurance policy, pension funds, tax. Like it talks about a lot here. So please go ahead. And also, if you are getting funded by a financial sponsor, it has some information about that, as well as if you are a graduate student getting funded by your academic department. It also has more information there. I know that one of our questions here is, I'm an incoming international PhD student, and I'm filling out the financial document upload for the new Admit I-20 request. So yes, you can use the financial support file that was sent to you via email. However, if it does not cover, if it does not meet the minimum total financial estimate for the student program of study as outlined below, then it must be supplemented by documentation of other financial sources altogether to meet or exceed the total financial estimate required. So for example, if it only states that you will be receiving 50% TA or GSR rates, then you must also include financial documentation that you will cover the remaining 50%, the remaining half, right? So we ask that you would compile into one PDF, both the letter from your academic department, as well as other sources of funding that will meet or exceed the total financial estimate. Now you might be asking, what is the total financial estimate? If you are an undergraduate student, typically you have to show it for 1 year. This would be the total financial estimate. And if you are a graduate student, you can see the total financial estimate here. Now, if you are in a RADI program or School of Global Policy or other MAS programs, make sure that you check out these drawers as it will include that information. But again, your total financial documents need to exceed or need to meet or exceed what's listed here. So you can have multiple sources of funding. We would ask that you compile them into one PDF. If it has multiple pages, that's fine. Or I think we might have changed it into you upload by type. But it does need to meet or exceed the amount. Okay, how much time does it take for I-20 approval? So that should be on our iNewDegreeStudent.ucsd.edu. So as a reminder, the deadline, so it opened in early March. Students can begin requesting their I-20. Know that if your program does start before August 1st, you need to submit it by May 1st. If your program starts between August 1st and September 23rd, you need to submit it by June 1st. And if your program starts on September 22nd or later, you need to submit by August 1st. Now, we would say, please submit it beforehand because the visa process can take a long time. So the earlier you submit these documents, the better. It just sets you up for success. But in general, the processing time for a new admin I-20 or DS-2019 request is approximately 15 business days from the date of a complete and accurate request submitted in iServices. So again, it has to be a complete and accurate request, as in all of the funding requirements are met, and things similar to that. So know that the processing time can depend on a number of different factors and cannot be guaranteed, but in general, you can expect approximately 15 business days from the date of a complete request submission. Okay, wonderful. I'm gonna answer a few of these like I-20 questions before I hand over some of these to my colleagues in Student Financial Solutions. Okay, so we have one question here that asks, how will we know if there's something incorrect or any more information is needed for I-20 approval? You will get a message from our office. So typically, in iServices, I'm not sure exactly the language that's used. Historically, we've set the application to incomplete, needs more details, check application. And so you would get an email that lets you know your application has been set to incomplete and that we need more information. You would go in and you would see, so for example, we might say, this is what's needed in terms of your funding, right? It only covers this amount. We need you to provide an additional this amount. Or we might say, you uploaded cryptocurrency. That is not an accepted form of financial documentation. Instead, you must submit some other type of accepted form of financial documentation, so on and so forth. So you would hear from our office if for some reason it's like set to incomplete and you're not sure what's incorrect, you can always reach out to our office to gain a better understanding, whether that be in advising or emailing us, etc. Okay. So I think this might be a question for our colleagues over in Student Financial Solutions. So this question reads, hello, I would like to know how to distribute and budget my monthly fellowship stipend. What payments do I have to keep in mind and what percent can I give to each category? Is there anything that Student Financial Solutions would like to speak to in regards to this question?
As far as that question, I'm a little bit unclear on where the fellowship stipend is coming from. Typically, fellowship stipends are given from graduate division, or sorry, not graduate division, but they are given from a department. As far as distributing and budgeting a monthly fellowship stipend. Yeah, for that one, I would need more context to be able to answer that, just because there are a lot of different fellowships and there are sort of categories or restrictions as to what they can cover, um, that's definitely something that you could contact our office with, and we'd be able to either give you more information or point you in the right direction. Um, yeah, I'm assuming most likely it's for a graduate student. But usually stipends are just sent out straight to the student anyway. So if that is the case, then it would be up to your discretion as to what you'd want to spend that money on. But if it's just something that's going to be applied to your account, I'm not really sure how I'd answer that.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just add that similarly, yes, it'll come from your grad department for the fellowship. However, in terms of payments to keep in mind, it's your responsibility to have a good understanding of what those payments might be. Now, if you would like support and help in understanding what those payments might be, so for example, tuition and fees versus rent versus groceries versus all of those good things, I'll highlight a couple of resources. So one is so the UC San Diego's partner is University Credit Union. Let's see if I can share this. So University Credit Union is the financial institution partner of UC San Diego. And so with that, they offer a number of different things. You can also create a bank account with University Credit Union without needing a credit score or a social security number. So that's of interest to many of our international students. Another thing that they offer is typically financial literacy workshops. So for financial literacy, that might be a support in terms of how to create a budget, how to understand what are all of your monthly expenses, and how to allocate your budget in terms of what percent of your stipend or other source of income might go to all of your expenses. So join us. I think we might have University Credit Union joining us on May 6th for getting set up in the US. But those should be some resources to get you started. Okay, we have another question that says, hello, I still can't log into my student chart to submit the immunity information. I believe we covered this in our health insurance and immunization requirements webinar. So I'd recommend reviewing that. I do think that it might take a little while. I think they have to upload you into the system. So I believe that you may not gain access to my student chart until May. However, I would confirm that by watching the webinar recording, as well as looking at the slides, if in case it's listed there. So again, inewstudentwebinars.ucsd.edu, fall 2025. If you're a graduate student, you can see the recording here as well as insurance. And then we should have the undergraduate up here shortly within this week. But I do think even then you could still reach out to our partners in student health to ask about that. And I believe, yes, if you're having technical difficulties, you should be able to email this and ask those follow-up questions. Okay, so our next question is, I'm an international student. Is it possible that my relatives or friends in the US pay my fees from their account? It is possible. I'll speak to one part of this, and then I'll invite my colleagues from Student Financial Solutions to speak to the other. So if you are going to use your relatives' like account information as a part of your funding requirements, you will note that relationship in your iServices application request, right? So if, for example, we would consider that a private sponsor. So whether that's your parent or your relative or your friend, we do accept this type of funding. That has to be available in English. It has to be dated within the last 3 months, and it must include the sponsor's bank or other financial statement following the criteria above, right? So following the criteria listed here. And then you would note in iServices what your relationship to this person is. So whether it be like your aunt or your uncle or something like that. Now, in terms of them paying your fees, that is where Student Financial Solutions comes in. And so you would likely have to set them up as a third-party payer to actually pay those fees. And that's where I'll hand it over to Student Financial Solutions to add on to that.
Yes, that is correct. You would have to add them as an authorized payer, and you can do that through your Triton Pay. And you would send an email link to them, so that way they can have their own login credentials. From there, they will be able to make any payments on their behalf and use their own like bank account or credit card or whichever method of payment that they're trying to do.
Well, thank you. All right, so we have another question that says, I've asked to join the undergraduate summer bridge program. I await a response from the UCSD admission office. Should I wait to hear back as the start date and the I-20 application will be different versus the regular start date? Any other suggestions related to this? Yes, that's a good question. So it's likely that summer bridge will have a earlier start date than a fall 2025 start. So yes, I would wait to hear back and confirm. Because it's likely that you would do a summer start or early start application for your I-20. So please follow up with the UC San Diego admissions office, confirm what that start date is, and then go ahead and request your I-20. And you can even let them know that in order to, you'll need to likely request that information sooner, because if it's before August 1st, you need to submit this shortly. But if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to our office via icontact.ucsd.edu, and you can fill out our contact form. Okay, for the I-20, it's mentioned on the website that term deposits need to have a maturity date before the start of the course, correct? I have a letter from a bank manager stating that my term deposit can be liquidated or withdrawn at any given time without penalties. Will that be sufficient? Yes. So will that be sufficient to include term deposits to meet the I-20 amount, even if not all of the term deposits mature before the starting of the course? So it has to be clear on your financial document that, one, the term deposit either meets or exceeds the necessary amount. And for that, it has to be clear on the document that that term deposit that meets or exceeds that amount can be liquidated or withdrawn at any given time without penalties. So if that's true, if it's clear that the term deposit is greater than either this amount for an undergrad, whatever you might be, and that it's clear that it can be liquidated or withdrawn at any given time without penalties, then that should be sufficient. Okay, what if I've not included relatives in the I-20? I'm not sure what this question means or what it's asking. If you are uploading your relatives' financial documents as a part of a way for your funding requirements, you can contact our office at icontact.ucsd.edu, fill out the contact form, and just say you can ask to add additional information there. Again, I'm not too sure what you're asking with this question. I think I need a little bit more context in order to best understand it. But go ahead and maybe if you want to provide additional information about maybe your relative information regarding your I-20, go ahead and fill out our iContact form and we can link that to your request. Okay, so our next question is, do international students get assigned or an SSN or any ID number? So all students will get assigned a UC San Diego personal identification number or a PID. Now, an SSN is different. So students will only get a SSN once you have a job. So I'm going to go ahead and share our webpage about Social Security numbers here. But in order, so in the chat, but in order to get a SSN, you will need to have essentially a job as a part of applying for the SSN. Will be uploading your job offer letter, right? So whether that's on-campus paid employment, off-campus paid employment, after graduation, etc., you will need to have a job offer letter in order to apply for an SSN. So go ahead and review that in more detail, but that is necessary in order to get an SSN, which is then necessary to build a credit score, which is why many students might look at bank accounts that don't require a credit score or an SSN when opening a bank account in the US. Does ISEO start reviewing I-20 documents after the CVIS transfer date? I'm asking as my funding letter may surpass 3 months by that time. If I'm understanding your question correctly, it needs to be valid within the 3 months at the date of submission, right? So at the date that you submitted your I-20 request, the funding documents should be within those last 3 months at the date of submission. Okay, that's all our questions for now. That is also all the time we have for today. I want to thank you again to my colleagues from Student Financial Solutions for lending their time and their expertise to share with our community. We are so grateful. Thank you again for all of them for putting their contact information in the chat. You can go ahead and reach out to them using that. Join us next week for our pre-arrival webinars on student life as an undergraduate student, as well as campus safety and scams for all students. And then the following week in early May for getting set up in the US, as well as the CVIS transfer process. And with that, have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later. All right, thank you.